Hello, everyone. Um, let's talk about the chapter 9, long-term liabilities. Mm, I think this chapter is the most difficult chapter in this semester. So let's talk about it very slowly. Mm. So in today's course, we're gonna talk about the bonds. So what's the present value? And what's the PV and PBA? What's the difference between it? And we're going to talk about the journal entries, how to record the transactions of the bonds. So let's look at the first example. If you require a 9% annual return on your investment, you would prefer a 15,000 5 years from today rather than an ordinary annuity of 1,000 per year for 15 years. Is that true or false? So basically, it asks you, so there are two options. First option, you get 15,000 5 years later from now. And another option is you get 1,000 per year for 15 years. Mm. And the return is 9%. So which option is like more worth it? Okay. So when you like do simple calculation, it might looks very the same, but here is not the case. So why? Because the time is different, and one is annuity, one is not, and that makes it different because the money has a time value. So what that means, money has time value because suppose you have 1,000 for now you have 1,000. Another thing is you have 1,000 5 years later. So that's different, right? Because if you have 1,000 now, you can invest in something. And 5 years later, you can get more than $1,000. So $1,000 today is more than the 1,000 5 years later. So that's why the money has the value. And to compare these two options, we have to transfer the future values to today's values to make them more comparable. So that's why we need the present value. Let's look at the first option. Let's make it very slow here. So option one. So in year 5, you get 15,000. So what's the 15,000 in 5 years later means for today? The return is 9%. So if you invest, let's say, if the money today, the value is PV times 1 plus 9%, that's equal to the money would be 1 year later, right? So in 5 years later, just power uh, at the power of 5, then that equal to 15,000 for now. So what's the PV for today? What's the present value? You use the 15,000 to discount and the return. So that's equal to 15,000 times 1 plus 9% and power of 5. And to make the calculation easier, we use a PV 9% 5 to represent this equation. So what that means, 9% means for every period, the return, and 5 means the number of period. So there are 5 periods. Each period, the return is 9%. And we can use the finance calculator to calculate it. Here is a value we will get if we use a calculator. And that would be equal to 9748.95. Okay, that's for the option one, the present value today. So which means if you have 9748.95 today. That's equal to you have 15,000 5 years later, because the money has a time value. And let's look at the option 2. So option 2, the thing is, start from year 1, you get 1,000. Year 2, you get 1,000. Etc. The same thing for the year 3, year 4 till year 15. You get $1,000. So how to calculate the present value of this contract? You should transfer more than 1,000 in the future to today. So PV equal to for the 1,000 over 1 plus 9%. That's the present value of the 1,000 in year 1. Similar, we'll use the 1,000 divided by 1 plus 9% square. That's for the year 2. So it etc. 1,000 divided by 1 plus 9%, power of 15. So that's equal to 1,000 times the sum of this. Correct? And to make the calculation easier, we use the PVA 9%, 15 to represent this group. So 9% is the rate of return, and 15 means the number of payment period. And if you use a calculator, you will get 8,06069 equal to 8060.69. So you can see the present value of the first option is 9748.95, and here is for the option 2, and option 1 is better, right? And the difference between the PV and the PVE is different. The PV is the value of the money you will get, like how many years later. And the PVA is annuity. For every year, you get a portion. Okay, let's look at another example. What would you pay for an ordinary annuity of 2,000 paid every 6 months for 10 years if you could invest your money elsewhere at a nominal interest rate of 10% compounded semi-annually? So 10% compounded semi-annually. 10% here is for a year, and for it paid you like twice in 1 year. So for every period, the return is 5%, and 6 months for 10 years. So there are 20 periods, and 2,000 is annuity. So we get everything we need. We can calculate the PVA, present value of annuity, is 2,000 times, use the calculator to calculate the PVA 20. So there are 20 period, 5%. So equal to 2,000 times 12, 4, 6, 2 to 1 equal to 24924.42. So it's the same case in our previous example. For every period, you get 2000, and there are 20 period. And each period, you get a return of 5%. So with a calculator, you can easily get the present value. Just transfer those 2000 for each period to today. And let's look at another example. How long does it take for 5,000 to grow into 6, 7, 2, 4, 4, 4, and 10% compound quarterly? So because compound quarterly for every quarter, the return for every period, the return is 2.5%. And we use 5,000 to times 1 plus 2.5%. That would be the return, how much money would go into after one period, right? And we use n to represent the number of period. So after n period with this return, the 5,000 will grow into 6,724.44. And use the calculator, we can calculate n equal to 12. And to remember, n is a quarter, the number of quarter. And to transfer to years, we just divide it by 4, which equal to 3 years. The number should be B. Okay. After we reviewed what is the present value and how to calculate the PV and PVA, let's look at the bond. So this is the image of the bond. So bond is IOU. So is a note, is a promissory note, which means the bond the debitors, the creditors just owe you that much. The face value 1,000 means the company or the government will pay you 1,000 when the bond mature, and the interest is 10%. So the interest rate is a annual interest rate, 10%, and it will be paid twice every year. So on June 30th and December 31st. So for each period, so there are 2 periods for every year, and each period, the company or the government will pay you 5%. The bond date first year, January 1st, means the bond was issued at that date. And the maturity date means the company or the government will pay you back that money, pay you back the 1,000, pay you 1,000 and year 10, January 1st. So basically it means you have this note. It's a proof that someone owe you that much money, and you at the date of maturity, you can use the note to show them, hey, you should pay me back. Okay, you will get the $1,000, and for every year during the year 1 to the year 10, every year there are 2 dates you can get the 5% return. That's on June 30th and December 31st. So and then 2 dates, you show this note to the company or the government. They will pay you 5% interest. Okay. So the market interest rate means sometimes it can be called the effective interest rate. It's the interest rate required by the creditors to compensate them for the risk related to the bonds. So what it means? It means you lend this company or the government like 10% the money and it give you like 10%. Why you should give you interest rate? Because if you lend someone else, you lend to the market will give you that money because you have the risk. You have the risk to lose the $1,000. So to compensate for the risk, you will ask for some interest rate. And both bond rate and the market interest rate is an annual rate. Annual rate. So the 10% is annually. And the price of bond. So how to calculate the price of bond? There are two parts. First, we should calculate the present value of interest. Um, so so every period every year, June 30th and December 31st, you get you get a fixed interest rate. Here, in this case, is 5% of the 1,050. So for every period, you get the $50. So that's very similar to the PVA, right? And the present value of the principals. So at the end of the year 10, you will get the 1,000 back. So what that means to you today? So you should discount 1,000 to today's. So there are two parts. You get two parts because of this investment. First is the interest, another is the principal. To discount this value to today, you get the price of bond and issuance. You may be a little bit confused now, but we will make an example to make it more like clear to you. So there are different scenarios. First is the bonds issue and the face value. So in this case, the face value is $1,000. So in that case, so when that happens, because the coupon rate equal to the market rate. Okay, so let's calculate it to see why when the coupon rate equal to the market rate, the bond will issue at a face value. So here I think is a typo. On January 1st, in year one, a firm issued 5-year 10% bonds with a par value of 100,000, with a market rate of par value is a face value. When the market rate of interest on similar bonds is 10%, the bond pay interest semi-annually on June 30th and December 31st in each year. So what that means to the customers, to the investors. So 5 years and paid semi-annually. So twice a year. So there are 10 periods. For every period, you get 5,000. Why? So once, because 10% semi-annually, so each period is 5%. 5% times 100,000 is the interest payment you will get if you buy this bond every period. So 5,000, and then there are 10 periods. So at the end of year 5,000. That's the interest part. And this we already discussed that scenario in our previous example. We just use the formula. 5,000 is the annuity times PVA. 10 period. Each period 5%. Okay, use the calculator. We get the 38609. That's for the interest part. Another is for the principal part. Principal is at the end of the time period, you will get back the 100,000. So to calculate the present value of the 100,000, use the 100,000 times the PV, 10 period, each period 5% return. You get 61391. You add them together. So what happened? This happened to be 100,000. That's equal to the face value. So if you invest, what it means? It means if you invest in that bond, the value you get from the bond discounted to today is 100,000. So the value of the bond is 100,000. It's equal to the face value. So that's what it means for the bonds issued and face value. Let's look at another scenario. The bonds issued at a discount. So why would the bonds issue at a discount? That's because the coupon rate is less than the market rate. So the company, let's say the company give you a rate of 4%, but the market give you the 5%. So would you like to invest in that bond? No, right? Because the return is less than the market. So what's to make the bond more attractive to the investors? What the company should do? It will sell the bond at a discount less than the face value. So tomorrow the bond make the bond more attractive. And let's look at the example in detail. Suppose the firm issue a bond on January 1st, year one, when the market rate of interest on savings bonds was 12%, while the coupon rate was still 10% paid semi-annually. So the market rate for the bond for every period is 6%, while the company give you the rate of return is 5%. Let's calculate the present value or the present value of this bond. First is the present value of the interest. So because the return is still 5%. So 5% times 100,000 equal to 5,000. So it's the same in as the previous case. 5,000 every period, and there are 10 periods. So the present value of the annuity of the interest is 5,000 times the PVA 10, and here use the 6%. Because the 5% makes nothing to you here. You should discount at the market value, market rate. So that's equal to 36801, and the present value of principal. Similarly, 100,000 times PV, you will get 100,000 5 years later, 10 periods later, which equal to 55839. So you plus them together. The total equal to the 92640. So that means the value of the bond, the total money you will get from this bond investment is 92640. If the company issue more than that, it doesn't make sense. You will not buy it. So that's why the bond issue a discount. And that's why the company will issue the bond and the present value of this bond. Let's look at the third scenario. the bond rate is more than the market rate. So what that means, the market rate, for example, market rate is 5%, but its corporations provide a interest rate that is more than 5%, 6%. So the bond is so attractive. So the bond will be issued on premium to make it the demand and the supply in an equilibrium. Okay. And let's do the calculation. Suppose that a firm that 5 years bond on January 1st, year one, when the market rate of interest on a similar bond was 8%, while the coupon rate is still 10% paid semi-annually. So the market return for every period is 4%, and the coupon rate, the bond rate is 5%. Let's do the same thing. With the value of interest. 5,000. Use a 5% times 100,000 times the PVA. 10. 4%. Use the market rate equal to 5,000 times 8,11090 equal to 40554. And here, PV of principal equal to the 100,000, which means you for sure will get the 100,000 5 years later, right? And discounted to today. When you discount it, the benchmark is the market. So you use the market rate equal to 67556. And you add them together, and you will get this number. So the present value of the bond is more than the 100,000. So if the company sell you at less than that amount, the company will not willing to do that. So the company will sell you at a premium. It's more than the 100,000 because it gives you the interest rate that is higher than the market. So that's why the bond will issue at a premium. Let's go back to this first example, and let's make a journal entry regarding this issue, regarding this scenario. The bond issue at the face value. The bond price is 100,000. The issue price is 100,000. So the company get 100,000 cash. So debit cash, 100,000, and credit bonds payable. That's a liability. So debit asset, credit liability. So right-hand side of balance sheet increase and left-hand side balance sheet increase. And here, the bond is issued and a discount. So the bond issued at this price, which means the company only can sell the bond at this price. So debit cash 92640 and the credit bond payable 100,000. And you can see here it's not equal 100,000 because the company will pay the investors 100,000 later. So we record the liability as 100,000, but you can see here it's not equal. So we use a control liability account. Discount on bonds payable to record the difference. 267. 360. Good. Right, that's this number. And in this case, was the bond issue and the premium? Debit. Cash. The price of the bond. And the bond payable. The company will pay back later 100,000. And you can see here it's not equal, and we record the premium is a junk liability account, which means premium and bonds payable always follow the bond payable, and in later we adjust it. Okay, the increase of the premium and bond payable will lead to the increase of liability. Here is an amortization sheet. You can see the face value is 100,000. The coupon rate, the bond rate is 10%. 5-year paid semi-annually. Market rate is 6%. So the market rate is more than the coupon rate. So to compensate for the investors, the bonds have to be issued and a discount. And the carrying value here, this value we just calculated. Here is the issuing price. So which means the company only gets the 92640, that much of dollar at the very beginning. And let's see how to amortize it. So this and in year 0, the carrying value is that much, and in the last period, the company will pay the investors 5,000. But actually, how much of that money for the interest that generated, we should use that amount, the carry amount, to times the 5% per period. That's actually the interest rate generated is equal to that much. So you can see the difference. The company only borrow 92640, and the interest rate generated is this number, but it pays its customers $5,000. So it should pay them 5,015,558, but it paid 5,000. So we regarded there is a 558 has not been paid. So that's the difference. And that should be added to the carry value. And that would equal to this number. So 931,898. And for the next period, we'll do the same. So 93198 times the 5% will equal to this number. That's the real interest rate generated for that much of money. The company owned. Sorry. and the difference should be added back to the carrying value. So until the year 10, the 99057 times 5% would be equal to this number, and the company only paid back the 5,000, and that difference is this number will be added to here and to the previous carrying value equal to the new carrying value. And the new carrying value at that time, the company paid back the 100,000, so that need to be 0. So after that date, the company paid back the 100,000. The final amount will be 0. So you can see the carry value always equal to the face value minus the discount on bond. The equation holds at any time. Okay. And then let's say another scenario. The face value is 100,000. The coupon rate is 10%, 5 years paid semi-annually, and the market rate is 8%. So market rate is 4% for every period, and the bond rate is 5%. So 5% is more than the market return. So the bond will be issued at premium. So let's see what happened for the issue at premium. So at that date, the price of the bond is 108,111. So that's the amount of money the company get in year 1, in year 0. And let's see how much interest generated for that bond if it has borrowed that much money. Use the 108,111 times the market rate equal to this number, 4%. So the interest generated is 4,324, but actually the company paid back 5,000. So the difference will go to the principal. So 108,111 minus this number will equal to the new carry value. Okay. And do it over and over again until the year 10. 10962 times 4% equal to this number. So actually the interest generated for this company is that much, but the company pay more, and there's a difference need to decrease of the principal. So 10962 minus the 962 equal to the 100,000. And on that date, the company paid back the 100,000. Then the company no longer has the liabilities. So you can see when the bond is issued and the premium, the carry value always equal to the face value plus the premium on bond. Okay, and this equation always hold. So this group plus here plus this number equal to this number. And for here, this number, the face value here, plus this number equal to this number. Okay, and I have prepared some exercise for you. In the later of our in the slides, and the answers has been recorded in the notes. So when you have a chance, please uh, practice them often. Uh, the bond is very difficult. I didn't do a very good job at explaining them. So please make sure you practice over and over again and try to understand the logic behind all those calculations. I hope it can be helpful. Um, okay. Uh, so I will see you next week.